Thank you, Chairman Wayne and members of the Judiciary Committee. I'm Senator Megan Hunt, MEGAN-HUNT, and I'm here again to present LB845, a bill that would provide a defense against eviction during the school year for students, their parents, teachers, and school staff. LB845 is a big idea for addressing multiple growing crises in our state. The lack of affordable housing, which is driving increasing housing instability and homelessness, the decrease in availability of childcare with early childhood workforce that is strained while costs are skyrocketing, teacher and school staff hiring, retention, and the wage crisis there, and students struggling with worsening school performance outcomes and emotional well-being. Each of these things can either be drastically exacerbated or improved by the simple but fundamental factor of whether or not the teacher or student has stable housing during the school year. I'll be clear that this bill is not an eviction moratorium. It's an affirmative defense against evictions for the specified groups during the school year. It doesn't prevent landlords from filing eviction proceedings, and it would be up to the defendant tenant to prove that they can't be evicted because they are school staff or the parent of a student currently in school or daycare. With a tough market, rising costs of living and inflation, Nebraska families are finding it harder and harder to find and maintain safe, affordable housing. The housing shortage has resulted in increased homelessness and unstable living conditions for many families, especially in our two most populous counties. That instability means that Nebraska kids suffer. Substandard housing and frequent moves are connected to increased health risks, decreased academic performance, and a loss of future earning potential. Research from Creighton University found a connection between eviction and academic performance. In a study of OPS elementary schools, 67% of students attending schools in areas with the highest eviction rates scored substantially below testing standards in English, math, and science. All of these consequences have long-term negative impacts on the future of our entire state. The shortage of affordable housing options is also hurting childcare workers, school teachers, and staff. If they do not make enough money to afford rent in their area, they're left with a choice between leaving a profession they probably love in search of one that will pay the bills, to go to another state, or stay in the job struggling to get by, potentially at risk of eviction. We also know that Nebraska is struggling to hire, fairly pay, and keep enough teachers and essential school support staff. When teacher pay is not competitive, they're less likely to be homeowners and more likely to be renters that could be vulnerable to eviction in today's economy. We ask so much of our teachers, something that has been put in stark relief since the pandemic. We want them to not only educate, but be therapists, behavioral health providers, after-school care providers, and oftentimes the funders of their own classroom supplies. Much of this also goes for the people who keep our schools running: janitorial staff, maintenance staff, cafeteria workers, dedicated folks who keep our kids' schools running for little pay. None of these folks who come to work every day to make sure our next generation are educated, productive members of society should be living out of their car, and unfortunately this is currently happening to many Nebraska teachers. This bill does not absolve the tenant of responsibility for rent owed. It doesn't waive or forgive any debts to the landlord. Tenants would still be liable for monetary damages in any suit for a breach of lease agreement. This bill would simply lessen the traumatic impact of having to relocate and find housing during the time young children most need stability and consistency, and when we need our teachers and school staff to be able to come to work and do the best for our kids. I'll leave you here with a key statistic. Children are most at risk of eviction before the age of 5. A critical stage of their development, and perhaps when they need the most protection. Thank you to this committee for taking the time to listen to the stories of testifiers behind me and for reading the comments submitted in support of this effort. I hope their stories about what an eviction means for families, communities, and our state impact you in the same way they've impacted me. No child should go to school wondering where they're going to sleep at night. And this bill, it's a big idea, but it kind of represents the world that I think that we could live in. Thank you.